people before us today were invited to come here. It's not a law that's isolated in Arizona. Its implications, its precedents will have an impact on all of us, and will have an impact on every region of the country. Today you're going to hear some powerful testimony on how it affects children, women, communities, and families. The law has not got into effect yet, and yet the impact is being felt. As a resident of Arizona and as a citizen of this country, while the law is embarrassing, while the law is punitive, while the law is prejudicial, it is important for all of us to understand that this law has to be undone at some point soon. We're going to be urging, as a consequence of this hearing, that the Obama administration take a proactive role as part of the Justice Department to enter into the fray, to become part of the legal challenge that is necessary and important on this law. And I hope the testimony today by women, children, and young people brings some urgency to the minds of my colleagues about the need not only to talk about enforcement, which everybody concedes is a point that has to be done, security and enforcement, but also to talk about the human aspect and the reality of the need for comprehensive immigration reform in this country. The actions have been taken on enforcement, more money to be spent, troops to be sent to the border. Now many of us await a refreshing approach, which is to deal with the full spectrum of immigration reform in this country. And the witnesses today, I think, will make that argument much better than any of us here on the dais could make it today. And with that, let me thank my co-chair, Gwen Moore, who helped call this meeting together, and turn to her for any opening comments that she may have. Ms. Moore.
Well, thank you, Congressman Grijalva. And I want to, again, thank you for supporting the development of this ad hoc hearing. And I want to say how proud I am to be a part of this ad hoc hearing. And I'd like to thank my colleagues, even those who are absent, and will find themselves here soon, Representative Chu from California, in support of this issue. And of course, the brave witnesses who have come here before us today to tell their stories. This meeting is a direct result of an emergency human rights delegation of women leaders across the country who went to Arizona and gathered the stories of the impact of this law, SB 1070, on women and children. The stories included vivid and haunting detail about the policy and the enforcement practices that have paved the way for assaults on the basic human rights of women who have come here simply to support their families. I think it's extremely important and worthy that we hear their voices in the midst of such a troubling time for our immigrant brothers and sisters in this country. And most of you here today know exactly the kind of devastating potential that SB 1070 has in our communities. As an African American woman, it's very disturbing to me when a state passes a law that, among other things, leads to racial profiling. And this hearing is designed to shine a bright light on how time after time again, enforcement-only immigration policies do not work, and even take us backwards by disproportionately affecting women and children. Tearing families apart and driving families further into the shadows out of fear has never solved anything, and instead humanely perpetuates the problem. It in no way advances the needs of employers who need immigrant workers, or sort of disaggregating those criminal elements who are here in the country. This kind of policy will not advance that cause. This is a clear testament to the fact that we need comprehensive immigration reform at a federal level that can provide a fair and humane path I could go on, but I do think that it's important to yield at this time and hear from some of our witnesses. And I yield back to Representative Grijalva.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. Let me now ask our good friend from California, Congressman Chu, for her comments.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I feel so fortunate to be able to hear about the impact of Arizona's SB 1070 on women and children. I look forward to hearing your personal stories, and I thank you for coming all the way from Arizona to share them with us. I'm already hearing from domestic violence providers that women from Arizona are coming to California because they're afraid of getting services in Arizona, and so there we have some of our first casualties. But your situation reminds me about people that I hear from every day in California in my district office. In fact, Maria, an American citizen who visited our district office last month with her 2 children, ages 2 and 4, crying torrents of tears. She'd gone to Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, with her husband for an appointment with an immigration official. There they petitioned for her husband to receive legal status, but the official denied their request, saying there was insufficient hardship. It's now been over a year since Maria's husband was left stranded in Ciudad Juarez, and even though he's married to an American citizen, he's been barred from re-entering the country for up to 10 years, which is the penalty of a law passed by Congress to make it tougher for undocumented immigrants to acquire legal status through marriage. So now their family's torn apart, and she was forced to do a short sale on her house because she couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments without her husband's income, and her children wake up in the middle of the night crying for their father. These family separations that are cruel and unproductive to both legal immigrants and citizens. It's families that have historically helped immigrants assimilate into American life. It's families that help prevent health conditions and social problems. And it's families that give individuals the support and resources they need to become productive members of our society. It's for families that we need comprehensive immigration reform, and we need to reverse SB 1070. So again, I look forward to hearing from you about what SB 1070 has meant to people living in Arizona.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. And before we start, as my colleagues come in, I will afford them the opportunity during the testimony for them to make any comments they wish to make. But let me begin with our witnesses today. And again, thank you. I'll begin with Catherine Figueroa, a young girl whose parents were arrested by Sheriff Arpaio's deputies in a workplace raid. Her parents were detained for 3 months. She was left with relatives who faced difficult times due to the financial pressures. Last year, Catherine appealed to President Obama to end the separation of families. She continues to be a voice of children being affected by anti-migratory laws such as the one in Arizona. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you.
And
My name is Catherine Figueroa, and I am 10 years old, living in Phoenix, Arizona. Last year, both my parents were jailed for 3 long months. After Sheriff Arpaio's deputies arrested them, I sacrificed because I did not want my parents to be in jail a long time. It was very hard for me every time when I went to school. I kept thinking that maybe I would see my parents when I got back home. I would also have bad dreams where the deputies would take my aunt, her family, and me to jail. I'm still afraid of the deputies. We went to the hospital to visit a family member, and I saw deputies, and I did not want to go in. Last year, I marched in the Children's March to show that not only parents are fighting back, but that kids are doing the same thing to change the laws that are separating us from our parents. Please help us. Children don't know what to do without their parents. Our parents come here for a better life.